Like the first time I walked on set and he was just there doing his Boris, I was like, oh, that's too close to the bone. I actually felt sick. I don't even want to be in this room with this actor. I remember watching an animated film of Heidi at my grandma's house. I used to watch it over and over again, sometimes like 4 times in one day. I was just obsessed with like the animation, but also there's this really gorgeous relationship at the center of it between Heidi and this girl called Clara. And it used to make me cry, like even as like a little girl. It's probably one of the first things I remember watching, but I haven't rewatched it. It's almost too precious, the memory of watching it and like sitting on my grandma's carpet. I started so young, so it's kind of difficult to like pin one thing down. But I do remember, again, at my grandparents' house, we used to watch a lot of like old Hollywood movies. And I was just obsessed with Gene Kelly. And I thought that he was kind of the most charismatic performer. And then when I got older and kind of read about like how rigorous he was and what a like dedicated performer he was, like that was incredible. The other performance I want to mention was when I was a little bit older, maybe like 12 or 13, and I watched La Vie en Rose. That still is a performance that I return to. I mean, I think Marion Cotillard is like one of the most incredible actresses ever. Even in terms of biopics, like it's so hard with biopics because everything becomes quite paint by numbers for sometimes. But with that, like I just couldn't get over how she had played this one person through her whole life and inhabited everything. And it was so convincing and so heartbreaking. And yeah, that made a huge impact on me. That was like, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life. This is an impossible question, but the end scene of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I mean, that whole film is just heaven and hell. There's so many scenes that stick with you for different reasons. But I feel in terms of like a scene that says pretty much everything that can be said about cinema without really using any words, and about art and love, and I just like honestly, the first time I watched it completely took my breath away. And even just talking about it now, I'm like, how do you even talk about that scene? Like, how do you conceive it? I just feel like it says everything ever. It was like, no more movies, we're all good. Like, yeah. The latest thing I did was a film about Partygate. We shot it very, very quickly. We didn't even do a read-through or anything. And I hadn't seen any of the stuff with Boris. Like I hadn't seen any of Jon Culshaw like doing him. The first time I walked on set and he was just there doing his Boris, I actually felt sick. I was like, oh, that's too close to the bone, breathtakingly good performance, and I don't even want to be in this room with this actor because it's so good. I want to run away. I think that the one that I've listened to the most is the If Beale Street Could Talk soundtrack by Nicholas Brittle, because it's what I write to and sort of go on walks to, and it's just kind of this completely alive feeling of love distilled into the most incredible horn section ever. It got to the point where I used to try and listen to it to make me go to sleep, and it would actually stir up too many emotions in me, and it would make me like not want to go to sleep. It would make me make me like more wired, so I had to stop doing that. I think Mahershala Ali and Janelle Monáe in Moonlight, they're two actors where they're just so warm and they're tender, but there's like a firmness. So yeah, it would probably be them. But I also think it would be really fun to have Stanley Tucci and Patricia Clarkson from Easy A as my parents. However, I already have quite normal parents, and I'm weird enough. And I feel like if I had Stanley Tucci and Patricia Clarkson as my parents, like, I don't know what I would be doing. But yeah, they would be so much fun. So 2 very different answers. This is maybe a cheat because it is technically a biopic, but it's Kristen Stewart playing Joan Jett in The Runaway. That whole film is so stylish, and I love The Runaways. I love the band. I love Joan Jett. It's like so much good leather, the best little t-shirts. It's all like cut up and punked up. And I think if I wasn't an actress, I would probably have done some form of mullet in my life. Maybe I'll get a job one day and I'll get to also have like a mad shaggy Joan Jett mullet, but yeah, for now it's eluding me. At first I thought Sofia Coppola, but then I was like, I would have to be depressed then. That would, obviously not be ideal. So I'm gonna go with Pedro Almodóvar, just because the interiors, the passion, the sex, the tears, all of it. Mainly the interiors. I just always want to completely live in his films. And then just Antonio Banderas, like, or Penelope Cruz just like showing up like wherever I looked would be lovely. I really believe that Fish Tank is like such an incredible piece. I still return to it, and it's so bleak, it's so hopeful in ways. And every mood board I make for like anything I do, there's always like 5 frames from Fish Tank on it. I love Kes as well. I think Kes is one of my favorite British films, and probably one of my favorite films. But I actually feel like Fish Tank is almost like this kind of modern successor to Kes, because it's kind of, you have a dream or a hope that kind of helps you it takes you out of your life, and then like, kind of loving something through showing it care, just all these little things. And I always feel like those 2 films speak to each other. But that's the thing about like British film, and particularly independent British film, is that the whole thing feels like this ongoing dialogue, and you have kind of more voices added all the time. Reservoir Dogs, the kind of cliche of people going to film school and being obsessed with Tarantino is so true. I feel like maybe the first scene is really iconic or something, and people always talk about it, and I've been like, oh, yeah, that's a crazy moment. We all do it. It's a very normal human impulse to be like, oh yeah, great film, love that. And also I think it's that thing of, if you say that you're into film and you watch a lot of film, there is this kind of very restrictive canon that is kind of placed upon you. Whereas actually, I've watched certain films which are supposedly amazing films included in the canon of kind of like film history, and I've been like, yeah, that was good. And then I've had other films that probably other people would be like, oh, that's kind of inconsequential, and I've been like, this is groundbreaking for me, and this is huge. So yeah, I'm a big fan of make your own canon. That was so much fun. I could talk about movies all day. So